Hello and welcome. Today, Bella and I are going to be doing some illuminated design chart readings. These are the readings that we do every month for the hub that we're in, for the Human Design Center we're in. And today we are going into the Splenic hub. We have been working with this hub for the past week. We did an intensive in the inner circle, and the Splenic hub has 7 gates in it. So we have the librarian, which is the 48, the intuitive, which is the 57, the grid worker, the 44, the maestro, the 50, the guardian, the 32, the daredevil, the 28, and the perceiver, the 18. So we're going to be doing 2 chart readings today for members of the inner circle. And they'll either have a defined, meaning their splenic center is colored in, or an undefined, meaning their splenic center is white. And each of these people will have a couple activations within this center. We don't have somebody that has a completely open splenic center. So the splenic center is, the themes of the splenic center is intuition, instinct, and body awareness. And when you have this defined, like any of the chart, any of the other centers in your chart, you have consistent energy there. So you have consistent energy to feel into like your body's health and well-being. You have awareness of that intuition in the moment, in the now. When it's open, you're open to the influence of other people. You're open to other people's health and well-being. You're also open to the fears of other people. And is there anything else you want to say? My daughter does not have a babysitter and she is getting into trouble. So I need to stop that really quick. So anything before we get into the charts that you want to say about the Splenic Hub, especially for people that maybe didn't do the masterclass with us or they don't know much about it?
Yeah, go back and watch the masterclass because I am feeling this week that the spleen is so important. And I was posting the other day in our groups about the splenic sacral connection. So if you are a generator and you don't have the emotional center defined, but you do have the spleen defined, from the beginning when Ross started to speak about inner authority, he would call that the splenic sacral authority. So he would say, you are a splenic generator. You know, that's not something that we use anymore. We say you are a pure generator or an emotional generator. So that has just opened up for me like an own inquiry and also confirmation, because I have a generated channel, the 5734 between the sacral and the spleen. And for me, all the time, the spleen is informing my sacral and it's informing my responding in the now, right? And I have the 57, the 44, the 50, the 32, and the 28. And the 28 is the ruler of my chart, if you think about it in a astrological sense, because my ascendant is Cancer. And then the 28 is super important for me. So everything for me in my life, I feel is splenic. I'm a generator, but the spleen is really what dictates. And sometimes I get afraid of my own instincts almost. I'm like, oh my God, what did I just do? What just happened? And that's how the spleen works. It works in the now, in the moment. And often is after it told you something that you like realizes. And I think that that's when you have a defined spleen, to be spontaneous, that's your best bet, because that's how you survive. And if you have an open spleen, you need to learn what is spontaneity for you and how does it work so that it doesn't kill you. Like, are you filtering somebody else's instinct and acting on them? Or is this your own intuition, your own body that is showing you the way? So I believe that the open spleen is a bit of a challenge, the same way that the open solar plexus, which is another awareness center that's important on the other side of the body graph, is also, there's a lot of potential wisdom when those two awareness centers are open. There is also a very strong not self in all 3 awareness centers: spleen, ajna, and emotional center. So if you haven't gone down this rabbit hole, look into all 3 awareness centers, and depending on what's defined in your chart, see how it works for you.
Yeah. So let's dive into a chart so you can have a specific example to look at. So Our first chart reading is for Theory, and he is a 3-5 emotional generator. He's got the cross of laws, the 60, the 56, the 50, and the 3. And he happens to have an undefined splenic hub. So the archetypes that he has in his splenic hub are the 57, the 50, and the 32. So we call those the intuitive, the maestro, and the guardian. And you can see something that's cool to look at is to see, okay, with the gates that you have in that center, what planet is activating them, because that also brings in the flavor of the planet. And you can see that 57 and 32 are both in Pluto for him. So this is transformation central, and also generational healing is occurring here. So in intuition and deciding what to preserve, what to carry on, what not. This is the fear of death, and it is also failure or success, and it's discerning and deciding, what to preserve in this life and what not to. And because this is the oldest awareness center, like Bella said, it's also really links to instinct, so it's also going to help us survive. And so the 32 has helped us decide what kind of things do we carry on, what do we bring with us. And you can see that the 50, it's corruption that lies, oh my gosh, I'm sorry, I thought I shut this off. It's corruption that lies in the cells. And I feel like the 32 decides kind of like, what are we carrying on and what are we not? What are we preserving? What are we not? What are we replicating and what are we not? How do we need to evolve here as well? And it's really tribal. And Bella had mentioned this in the inner circle, how we have kind of at the tip over here, the 44, the 32, and the 50, they're all part of tribal circuitry. So it's what is needed for the tribe to survive. So that's what he's bringing in. He also has the 50 in his radiant sphere. So that's his unconscious sun. So bringing that into things as well. It's beautiful that the splenic hub is all about intuition, instinct, and body awareness, and it's linked very much to health. You can see that he has a 50.5 inside an open splenic hub, which doesn't necessarily lend itself to being a really strong immune system, especially who he's around. And this being in his radiant sphere, your radiant sphere undermines your health, mental, emotional, and physical well-being. So if there's any kind of corruption in his field or he's taking anything on, it's going to undermine his own health and well-being. And like Bella said, spontaneity is not always a great thing when you have an open splenic center and a defined solar plexus. Patience and giving himself time and space to really process whatever's happening is important. So acting in the moment and just doing could be dangerous for him. What would you add or say to this? There's also a lot going on opposite poles of his body graph as well.
Yeah, that's you look at this chart and you see all the hanging gates, both of course this solar plexus and then the sacral, and there is such a pull to what's on the other side in both these, is what I feel, with the 3 hanging gates, grasping almost for the other side mechanically. So the spleen is not what I'm drawn to in this chart. I do understand part of that electricity that I can feel when theory I'm going to say it in English, because if I try to mix French pronunciation with English language, it's going to be weird. So I guess I say Terry because it's easier than to say the French pronunciation. So I can feel an electricity, in the field when he's there. And he was saying in one of the calls that we had with our smaller group for portals of deconditioning, that expression that is so intense, and actually the sexuality also, because so many emotional gates which is the expression of sexuality, and then the 59-6, that to not be too much, or to not just do it because you want it, to actually also feel what's on the other side. And when I see the intensity of this chart, I understand how it might feel to be on the other side. When you look in the gene key chart and you see the culture 59 and then the IQ 55, both in fifth line, and then the spark, the 1-4 in the middle, you understand that the energy that comes out. And then the evolution is intoxication in the third line. And that intoxication, especially if we think about it sexually, can be very overwhelming for other people. And I do believe when I look, and this doesn't completely go into the spleen, but that's not where I'm led to. But when you look at this chart and you look at the pathway of individuation, you see that there are all these fourth line. So here it's all about the heart. It's really what I see, a being who wants to connect deeply with the heart, in that spark energy of the SQ, in that rhythmic energy of the attraction, and in that surrendering energy of the pearl. However, when you look at the IQ and the EQ and the culture and the vocation, they're all fifth lines. So all this projection on, or the projection field on what he is and what he wants, and that can create confusion. The 7 like leaders can like be like, oh, why does he want to lead here? Like all that projection field. And also the 59 that feels like a penetrator. And then the profile is a 3-5, so there's also going to be the projection of failure on this person. So I can see the tension of living with this chart, and at the end of the day, what is in the pathway of individuation in the middle of the chart are those fourth lines. So what I feel is important is not to try to in any way make your expression less, expression, verbal expression, emotional expression, sexual, like all your ways of expressing. It's not about diminishing that in any way. It's about finding the people where you can be your whole electric you. And we also see that in the EQ. Ash and I often give that advice. If you have a fifth line in your EQ, in order for you to heal some of the emotional imprinting from your childhood or your adolescence, because the EQ is programmed between your 7 and 14, you need to have people around you that you respect and that you know are in integrity. That's the way for you to start to trust emotionally again. Because when you know that somebody is in integrity and you can respect them, then it's not dangerous to open up. Then it's fun to open up. So you have those like other role models with integrity that are around you. So that's going to be super important. And I feel like there's a lot of imagination, a lot of art that can be made when you have those people around you. And there is one more thing I want to say, and that's that your core wound and your SQ are, the 7 and the 1, are both in an open G. So here I do feel that it could be somehow that you are not completely sure about your direction or even who you are, because there is something that you've tried to tone down with yourself. So for me, it's so important that you look into that not self of the open G center. Like, are you outsourcing your life? Are you hooking out on your life to somebody else? Like, because you are a father of a family, or somebody is your wife or her family or a job. Like, there can be this outsourcing your life, your direction, your identity. And I want you to feel like you are you with this like very unique and powerful combination of the 55, of the 59, of all those fifth lines, in a heart that just wants to feel completely in trust and in openness with the other. So important for you to like look into that G. What is it to be me and have a million love stories? And I'm not saying literally that you need to have a million love stories, but there is an openness of your adventure and the things that you're here to live. So make sure that you don't kind of outsource your life on one thing or being one identity or one thing for one person. There is so much beauty and openness. And when you can live that, that's when your vocation and your SQ, like that's when that pathway of realization can open up. And that's how you really get access to your pearl sequence and your Merkaba, because there are even more keys this year that are going to be added, your Jupiter and your Uranus and your Saturn. So looking at that path of realization, the 7 and the 1, and knowing that that's the door up to realization where you really can live that pearl, where you are a role model with integrity when it comes to intimacy. And we also know that you're going to speak your truth. You're a heretic. So you're not going to speak this highest value of what intimacy could be somewhere when the raves came down and we are not here anymore. No, you are like practical here, a fifth line culture in the 59. This is what today is happening in the expression. And this is my truth. And who wants to come and be with me? You know, that fifth line that's not afraid to be even burnt at stake. So that's what I see for you. And yeah, the one thing, don't diminish your expression. You're here to be powerful, and people sooner or later, the people that are supposed to be with you will feel that fourth line in the Pearl SQ and the attraction, and they're gonna stay with you forever in that trust and in that love.
Powerful points. I feel like you got a lot here, Terry. Also, just to reiterate, with the splenic hub, it's important that when we're looking at a chart, we look at it in its totality, because the spleen is going to pull from the health of all of your centers, not just what's going on in the spleen. So of course, Bella is going to be drawn to different places, and you want to also make sure that you are, again, not trying to push energy into your undefined centers. You're wanting to embrace and really come into the power of that definition that you have. Nobody's supposed to be completely filled in or completely open unless that's your design. So don't try to make yourself completely open or completely defined. You're here to embrace and love your own design. And I feel like with having so many fifth lines, but like Bella was saying, there can be a I want to say the word preponderance, but I don't even know if that's the right word. There may be like a pull for you to show up in a minimized expression to not make people feel uncomfortable, because like Bella said, it's very powerful. And you may also feel into who that person is and know, who I am maybe doesn't really fit with who they are, because I know that, you can sense who they are. You're not here to be a chameleon and be a mirror for them where I'm going to be who you are. You're here to be your unique expression. And if it makes them uncomfortable, or if it makes them upset, or if it makes them question, or whatever it is, it's not your problem. So don't minimize your expression, like Bella said, which is super, super important for you. Again, lean into that definition you have in first and foremost, your emotional sacral being, like all the centers down here that ground you into who you are. And like Bella said, your sexual expression as well. That's going to be very powerful. And yes, you will be able to put the puzzle pieces together, and your mind is very intelligent as well, very practical. But remember, first and foremost, to include that, that animal body with that creator mind, and really open your heart to other people without feeling like you have to change or transform based on who you're with, even though that can be a superpower for you. But it's not to the detriment of diminishing who you are for the other, especially as a fifth line. You need to lead, and they'll follow if they're in resonance, and they'll leave. So don't be concerned about rejection. You'll find your people.
And remember the not self of the spleen, holding on to things and people that are not good for you. So that's something you want to check. Things that linger in your life, you want to ask yourself, is this good for me physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually? That's always a good exercise for the open spleen.
And we'd love to know, if you're watching this, is there any resonance with you in anything that we said? Do you have any similarities with Terry? And is there anything that you feel too intuitively that you're feeling just by connecting to his chart? Because I'll tell you, looking at someone's body graph is completely like, it's an active connection. It's intimate. You are connecting to their energy. And I thank you, Terry, for allowing us to go into your chart. I feel like a lot of people share their charts and open their energy to other people, not knowing that when you're in the chart, this is you. It's like everything's on the table. And you're also inviting people to come into your energy, because it's like there's the blueprint right in front of you. And this also gives us access to like pinpoint where's our intuition drawn to. And that's how me and Bella do chart readings, is we don't go through this, here's this order of things. We're going to talk about this, then this, then this. It's not structured in that way. It's very fluid. It's very feminine. And we draw on the structure of the knowledge of human design and gene keys, which gives us the banks of the river so that we, aren't super all over the place. So let your intuition draw you to different things, and things are going to ping for you as we're saying them. If you're not Terry, there is something in here for you. So thank you for watching and tuning in with us. We have one more chart to do. Do you feel complete with Terry?
I mean, I like what you said. And the fact is that when Ashley and I go into a chart, we're going to have connections with that chart because we also have our design. So here with Terry, what I was seeing when Ashley was speaking in the beginning, I have six electromagnetics. So there are two tantric channels. There are two channels between the emotional and the root. And then there is the 4426. And there's also the 1156. So that's six electromagnetics that are very strong, and two of them are connecting like in an intense way with the emotions and with the sacral. So that's also important to know that when somebody is looking at your chart, they have their design that is connecting with you. And if it feels very intense, it can be that there are so many connections that are electromagnetic, and it's like it becomes its own design when you and the reader are connecting.
It's beautiful, the potential for connection, and you often attract a lot of people that have many electromagnetics as well. So okay. And it takes a lot to be able to be grounded in your own core stability, especially if you're with another powerful person that has like a lot of very magnetic or electrifying energy. And if he has I have the 3 and he has the whole channel of mutation. So when we come together, he's completely going to transform the container that we're creating together. And it could throw me into chaos and make me feel like I'm out of control. I've had experiences with people that have this whole channel where it's like, this isn't the direction I wanted it to go in, but it mutates the way it's supposed to. And when you have, and I have the 6 and he has the whole channel. So coming together, he's going to mutate our container. There's also going to be this strong sexual energy from him that may make me feel, oh, my 6 is on guard, feeling that whole power of sexuality and sensuality in just his aura. So I could essentially shut down in a way around him, feeling like he's super unsafe for me. Not saying you are, Terry, but I'm just saying the circuitry is powerful, and especially the ones that are coming from the root and the emotional center. Lots of energy there. Okay. It's a good chart. Okay. And then we have a new member of the inner circle. Her name is Layla, and she is another 3/5. She's a sacral manifesting. She's a manifesting generator with the cross of the sleeping phoenix. And she's got a lot going on in her defined splenic center. So she has the librarian, she has the intuitive, she has the grid worker, she has the guardian, and she has the perceiver. And it looks like she has all of the integration, all of the individual integration circuitry. She also has, or circuit, she also has this channel of correction, which is a really, it's an intense channel as it is. I have this one too. And then she's got a lot of channels. Transmuting fears, bridging energy through centers. Her spleen is connected to, every single center it can be connected to, it is connected to. So she has a connection to the sacral, to the root, to the G, and to the throat. In this chart, it seems like this is the center point in a way. It's like it has access to everything. And you can see she has openness, the head, the ajna, completely open head, completely open ajna, completely open ego center, and just one gate in the emotional center, which is victimization to freedom. And you can see why. There's a lot going on over here, a lot happening in the spleen. So if anything comes up where she's in like, fears, survival, something's happening, it could also throw her into like this victim mode as well. Like, life is happening to me. But super, super strong energy coming out of her splenic center. So thanks so much for joining us, Layla, and taking the jump into the inner circle right when we were doing the splenic center. It seems super appropriate that your intuition kind of said, now is the time to jump in. So Bella, what jumps out to you?
I mean, this is where I am drawn to the spleen. So you see, it's just this is what the mechanics are taking us. And here we have that generated channel that I mentioned in the very beginning, directly between the sacral and the spleen. So there is this direct connection. In the 34, she has it several times. So 5734, connecting that spleen to the sacral. She's what we call a pure generator that will be responding in the now, but her response is usually not going to be just fluid as what the sacral is. It's going to be instinctual. It's going to be intuitive hits in the now because of that direct connection 5734. And then, like Ashley was saying, it's connecting to all the centers. So it's like, it's also being able to speak. You could say that intuition in the now, connecting to the throat, and then being able to really behave as that intuition is telling her when it comes to the 1057. And there is also this connection to the root that actually you were speaking about, the correction, which is the collective, the logical. She's going to be able to look at something and be, okay, this pattern is not perfect. How can we work on what has been spoiled here so that nothing is spoiled anymore, so that we can go to the future in a better way? So collective circuitry. She also has the 3254, which is the tribal discernment on who should be part of the team, of the tribe, so that work can be done, so that you can aspire and ascend together. So almost like everything comes from here. And it's not to say that the sacral isn't important, but again, the sacral is directly informed through this channel of power between the 57 and the 34. When you have this 5734, you have the power to do anything, and you have the intuition to know when to do it. So when there is an earthquake or when the world is falling apart, intuitively she's going to know where to go, and she's going to have the power to do it. And that is super powerful. So for me, everything in this chart is like splenic, even the way that the sacral responds. And I would say more than anything in this chart, I have exactly the same 4 open centers. I have a very similar chart to this. But actually, Lila is a single definition. All the centers are connected together. So that makes her feel whole in the way that she's acting, even if it's instinctive. So that's a positive thing. She doesn't have a split. I do still feel like the open centers, especially because they are completely open and there isn't a preferred way of processing energy or thinking or conceptualizing, or knowing that she's of value. And also when it comes to the emotions, it's all a filtering of what's outside of her, other people, the transits, the environment. So that could be very confusing, because the head and the ajna, there are a lot of thoughts and there are a lot of pressure to be certain. And then the emotional center and the ego, for me, it's all about in relationship. Am I worthy? Am I valued? How can I not rock the boat? Because if I rock the boat, I'm going to be the one victimized. The only gate that she has in all those 4 open centers is the 55, which is about victimization. So she kind of, the not self says, if I rock the boat, if I do the wrong thing, then it's going to slap me. So I do feel the most important thing for you, Lila, is to learn about the not self. Like, are you having things in your head looping that don't really matter for your life? Find a way to find kind of space and peace with that head that can go in circles. When it comes to the ajna, you're here like Einstein and other people that were testing so many different things, and they never had a conclusion from yesterday to today. There's always a new day, a new calculation, a new sheet, a new experience, a new idea. You're supposed to have play with so many different concepts without being completely sure forever about nothing. And then the open ego, you have nothing to prove. Don't overpromise. Don't even promise. Tell people what your intentions are. Never say that you are going to do something, because that's not your design. And then the open emotional, it's so important that you don't live a double life just because you're afraid of their reaction. Like, that's what I feel with this chart. With all this openness, it could be, you could tune in, like you could decide for something that you can't tell the world about, and then it would be your little secret. And somehow that's like, if you think about like a dog that has an animal that has a very strong spleen, they are not trying to hide anything. They are not trying to hide their nature. That would be very difficult. You're a 3-5, you're going to have the same like projections on you as well. And it's important for you to even be clear with you might want to live without an agenda. Might want to be busy with the things that you love doing, with all this integration channel so strong. And people might feel like, oh, she doesn't need me. Well, you don't need people really, because you are so strong and you are the cross of the sleeping phoenix, which is the global cross we're going into in 2027. However, the person that you share your intimacy with, your attraction is 29.4. That person is going to get your full devotion and everything from you and with you. So I think for me, what stands out in this chart is that I really want you to focus on your attraction. That's where the most value is going to come from you. The water goddess in the heart. When you can embody the water goddess that has that intuition through the heart, that's when you're going to have the most dynamism, the most fire, the most beauty of that third line of playing with life and of opening for somebody where it's not just a interaction or a play for one day, but this is deep devotion where the lover and the beloved are like the same, you know? So that's where I would say, do you have that? And how can your spleen and the intuition of the spleen lead you to have that kind of devotion, commitment, wholeheartedness with another person?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So how do you work with that? How do you work with the water goddess? You're a practical partner. Like, what's going to ground you in the quality of your own consciousness and to be able to say relationships are worth it. Remember, the radiant sphere and the purpose sphere ground us into our core stability. And then we meet our dharma and the people and the relationships, the ones that come to us. And you get to decide if it's a yes or a no, but it's always going to be a no. Remember, how you enter into a relationship is what is going to define, the fruits of your labor. So if you are in inadequacy or you're clinging to an emotional state, you're feeling victimized and you're talking yourself into this victim state, then anything you say yes to, those are the seeds that are going to be planted. So you have to be empowered in yourself and you have to lead yourself first. You are here to be deeply intimate and transparent. You're not here to hide anything. You're not here to manipulate. You're not here to use your power or your wisdom or anything against anyone else. You're here to be very you're here to be very transparent, and you're here to like put all the cards on the table and know where you're going, who you are, and who you want to include. Like Bella said, you're a single definition. You don't need to have anyone, but it's not conducive to just like cut ties anytime that you feel victimized and to run away whenever you feel like inadequate or not worthy in the relationship. So the areas that you're going to need to work on when you do say yes, and it's not a 1 foot in the door, 1 foot out the door, because that could be a tendency of the 3-5 profile as well. If they're feeling like things are going to fail, or they feel that sense of, oh my gosh, I'm going to be rejected, I might as well reject them or leave before they have a chance to do it, because that's going to fuel this feeling of, oh, it's not certain whether they're going to leave me or not, and if you're feeling deeply triggered or inadequate, or you're clinging to some kind of emotion, you may end up trying to escape or leave. So when you do say yes, both feet have to be in the door and you have to shut the door behind you. But it may take a little bit of romance. It may take a little bit of friendship first for you to feel safe and comfortable in the relationship, because what your inner child wants is certainty, rhythm, and routine. So in order for you to feel good in the relationship, you need to create that structure and foundation of friendship first. But that comes from you showing up in the relationship in your most empowered self, feeling free in yourself and feeling that felt sense of freedom, and not feeling like, oh, I'm pinned down in a relationship, I'm confined, I'm victimized, I'm part of this, like, I feel constricted, or whatever the story is. And also, when anything is triggered emotionally, you can see your EQ is your emotional intelligence. Remember, the spleen is getting all the information of the health and well-being from everything, including the open centers. So if your EQ is 42.5, you cannot cling to the emotions. You cannot, when something floods you and it's not yours, don't cling to it. When something floods to you and you're triggered into victimization, allow yourself to feel that victimization. Don't try to grasp for the other end of it. Allow yourself to be in it, detached, and there's going to need to be respect and reciprocity in the relationship too, where your emotions are respected not only by yourself but by the other person. And it doesn't matter how long it takes you to shift out of the emotional state, you have to ride the waves of it to completion, even though you're not an emotional authority. When you are feeling deeply victimized, when you are complaining, and when you are criticizing, you need to allow yourself to come to peace in a way, and however long that's going to take. And also, it's very important for you to your vibration, the things you say that come out of your mouth, because Your radiance sphere is what's going to undermine your mental, physical, emotional well-being and health. You're going to want to not complain. Oh, and this is so hard for the 55. As soon as you start verbalizing the complaining or the criticizing, you hearing your own voice is going to lower your own frequency, because the tone coming out of the shadow of the 55, you're going to hear it, you're going to attune to it, and it's just going to drag you down. So you have to, your words matter. So if you need to speak light language, if you need to speak Sanskrit mantras, or if you need to sing songs that are going to help you get out of that mood, that's what you're going to need to do, because the victim here is the victim of your mood. So you're going to need to find a way to get your voice into the frequency of, you know, your voice is going to need to, is the only thing that's going to be able to either bring you down or bring you up. So, okay. I think that's what I would give as advice for that water goddess.
Yeah, and the only thing I would add is that the fourth line, because you have it both in the core wound and in the attraction, that is the most important thing for you to open up. So either the guarding of the heart or the fear of rejection is what could have you not completely experience that deep intimacy of the attraction, and then the fuel of the vocation. So the fear of rejection and the guarding the heart, if there is any shadow work that you're doing, body work, somatic work, that would be the place to tune into and see what's there, what's there that you haven't touched yet. What do you have in the heart that has still not opened? Because all of us have places in the heart that can still open. So that would be my last little thing for you.
Yeah. Well, I thank you for tuning in, and I thank you, Lila and Terry, for submitting your charts and allowing us to go into you and share you with our audience and everyone else. And I hope that there was something that you were able to resonate with in the chart and the advice we were giving them, because the reason we put this out here in a way is so that you can connect not only to, you know, the energy of the people and maybe what we're saying, because there's something that we're saying to them that is actually something you need to hear as well. We also want to model how it is that we dive into the charts too. We want to role model what it is to bridge the gap. We have the side by sides of the charts so that you see we're looking at both the human design chart and we're looking at the gene key chart, because that's the way that our intuition is informed. That's how we're combining things, because you get so much different information and data out of each of the charts, because they're structured differently, they're created differently, and the geometry of each of the charts speak to you in a different way as well. And Bella understands that. Okay, well, if you are interested in an illuminated design reading, you can reach out to us. We do recorded readings, or we do things live on Facebook, or you can do a Thrive by Design reading. We have many different types of readings if you are so desiring as to go into your own chart. So reach out if you'd like that. And if you want to join the inner circle, we would love to have you. Message us about that or ask for a link in the comments, and we'll see about getting you in. If you do get in right now, you are on the cusp of Splenic and then the next hub that we're going into. So you may potentially be able to get into the Splenic information before it goes away. And then the next hub, which is actually going to be the heart or the ego center. So it's a good time to join.
Thank you.